director since 2017. I love him. Lots of good things he has done under his leadership, like remodeling, new programs. If you want to learn more, you can check out the library website. And here is Mark to tell you some more about the library and to tell you some more of the other people who are important to this library that I also know.
Okay. Thank you. You want to hold this for me?
Wow, thanks for spending your Sunday afternoon with us here at the Donora Library. Welcome to everyone. It'll be an exciting, interesting, to say the least, afternoon, the next couple of hours. Just briefly about the library, you know, this building's been here since 1996, so it's getting a little bit of age on it. We do have continual plans to make updates. We did a lot of work upstairs, making everything more automatic, more touch-free, and of course, you know, the reason why behind all of that. We're also, our next project is to install a lift that will be a great deal of help for people between the upstairs and downstairs. So that's our next big project. We're almost there. We're maybe $20,000 away from our goal there. You may have also noticed our electric charging station. A lot of people had doubts about that out in the parking lot. It's being used every day by Walmart. And probably 3 or 4 people that live in Donora that have Teslas and electric Kias and other things. So it's starting to pay off for us in recognition and a couple of dollars. So again, we've got a lot of things planned for the future here at the library. I do want to introduce our staff. Right here in the middle, if you wave your hand, Jeannie Thomas is our administrative support person, and Nona Galeda, next to her is one of our desk librarians, Johanna Rubino here again, and Ken Bazell Boyer back here in the blue bandana. Also here at the library today, we have quite a few of our board members. Let me take a look around first. We have Mary Jean Del Sandro and Ann Gatus. Of course, Dr. Lonich is our secretary. Susan Stacy's on our board as well. And missing somebody, Arthur Franzalio is back there. Who did I forget? Well, we're filling up fast, so everyone take a seat, and we'll get going here in a second.
Feel free to get their food.
Oh, help yourself. There's snacks back there. If you didn't get a raffle ticket, grab you one now. Thank you.
You're the boss.
All right. This is a multimedia program. It will last more than an hour or so. It is interactive, so please feel free to interact. Because it should be fun. It's going to be fun. Thought-provoking. No debates, no conversations. I promise. 2 rules, be kind and have fun. 3rd rule, interact. Be prepared for rambling, going on tangents, personal references to you, lousy dancing, bad jokes, and moronic antics. So that's what's gonna happen.
We had a death slide.
So
Go ahead, next.
it's showtime. Let's get this rolling.
An attractive opening act. I'm gonna make an act mistake again. We're here today to talk a little bit, interact, and most importantly, like she told you, have fun. And so we're going to interact. I'm gonna get you warmed up. Feel free. You want to sing along? You want to dance? You want to make comments? You want to ask questions? You want to write checks? That would be real good too. We're going to warm up together. You got enough time, Grant? The next slide. Arlene has the most stressful job trying to keep pace with me and my music. We're going to play a little game of Name That Tune. Can you all see back there? Is everybody comfortable? All right, real good. I know you can hear me. That's not going to be the problem. Arlene's going to play a song that I think most of you will know for a variety of reasons. We're not going to yell out the name right away. We're going to work our way in, and when I give you the signal, we'll all do it together, and we'll feel real good about it. You ready? Okay, Grant. Rolling, rolling, rolling. 1, 2. Get ready. Peyton told me that was going to happen. Right? Yeah. Now, you might know that for a variety of reasons. Maybe you remember the television show, Clint Eastwood's breakthrough role. Maybe you remember it from the Blues Brothers. Yes. The bar where they're about to be run out of town and he grabs the whip. Variety of commercials. But the point of it is, it's so familiar, and the reason that's used over and over again is because our images of the West are ingrained. And that's one of the points that I'm trying to make. See that? That's the kind of enthusiasm I'm liking. I'm hiring this young man, coming with me on the road from now on. Very good. You might remember this too. You might. How about this one? You like cats? Do you like cats? All right, well pay attention, big guy.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Don't let anybody tell you it's easy. Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here. And if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
feeling like in the world?
That was the Super Bowl commercial, believe it or not, 20 years ago, 2002, and consistently it is ranked as one of the most popular commercials, just usually right behind the Joe Green commercial, the Pepsi thing. Now,
Coke.
so Lord, I don't like those. Here's the deal on this. The reason for this is, and the reason it resonates, even if you don't like cats, put up your hand right with me. If you don't like cats, like our buddy, the images are so ingrained in our subconscious that it impacts our personal, national values. Or you might want to call it our subconscious, since we're discussing spiritual values. Now, I thought that was particularly clever. And I'm not getting any laughs on this. This is a hard audience. You get ready, warm up, Peyton, because you're coming back soon. All right? More people are coming. Holy mackerel, I never expected this, buddy. You and him. Here's the new duo right up here taking over the show.
Hello, buddy.
Now, the book, and some of you are already looking at it, Hard Ride to Redemption. Religion is very important. In fact, in almost every one of my books, every one of my stories, religion plays a role, not too subtle underneath. And if you remember, those of you who read the book, one of the main characters in the book has the symbols of some major religions tattooed on his wrist. So I got myself tattooed this week, so I could use this as a cheat sheet. And I had it done in like fluorescent things so you could all see it too, here in the dark. We're going to start with Catholicism. Some of the characters in Hard Ride are Catholics. They tell us that. Some, they don't actually tell us. You can play with that all you want, big guy. They don't. Some of them don't tell us they're Catholic, but we kind of know it. The girl who has been abducted wears a crucifix, indicating she's Catholic. So I'm going to use these, like I said, these various symbols here. The Catholic Church presence is easy to see. The Catholic Church is so structured, so rigid, so liturgical, and they came with very clear goals to this country. Does anybody remember that, Mr. Social Studies teacher? The 3 goals of the God, gold, and glory. Now, I'm not so sure they kept them in that order, but nonetheless they did. And a lot of the missionaries, the Dominicans and the Franciscans, and since today is the feast of St. Ignatius Loyola, we'll talk a little bit about the Jesuits. They came to convert the Indians, to save them from the fires of hell. Sometimes it didn't go so good for the Jesuits, and a lot of them were martyred. However, for the most part, they prevailed. And the way we can see that Catholic presence, just on any road map. This is the Camino Real in California, up around the Great Lakes, down through the South, Florida. All these named after saints. Every place the Catholics converted people, they made a mission, they made a church. Now, if that's not enough for you though, every year during March Madness, we see all the Jesuit basketball in the Elite Eight, or the Final Four, or in the final national championships. Now, I could talk about a lot of different missionaries, but today, because I want to make sure I give women their proper credit, and that's all through all my writings, I hope, we're going to talk about Catholic sisters in America, and one in particular. This is Sister Blandina Segali. I read about her in my Give Us This Day, I don't know, in my Give Us This Day meditation book. She was born in Italy, Genoa, moved to Cincinnati when she was 4 years old, and lived in a community of people from Genoa there. She grew up, she moved in the 1850s. After the Civil War, she became a member of the Sisters of Charity. And she moved, whenever they did that, they shipped her as a missionary to New Mexico, Colorado. She did all the things you would expect a missionary to do. She ran a hospital, she educated girls, she tended the sick. This particular lady also faced down a lynch mob, and believe it or not, went head to head with Billy the Kid. He was about to ravage a town and she talked him out of it. Now, you know, I mean, you couldn't get better. Guys right into Western. Hollywood could not ignore that story. And so, Hollywood did make this
Death Valley Days, where Western history comes alive.
Welcome to Call the West. Both life and justice were primitive along the old Santa Fe Trail. Men living violently demanded quick, violent justice, an immediate eye for an eye. Lynch law prevailed. Occasionally, a strong marshal or a sheriff used a fast gun to bring law and order to a boomtown. In at least one case, though, a lone pioneer tried to end mob rule. A pioneer with no weapons but faith and incredible courage. A pioneer we have affectionately and respectfully nicknamed the fastest nun in the West.
You couldn't get better than that. You want to read about Sister Segali, you can go online. There's an Italian-American organization, article tells you, look it up, who is pushing her cause for canonization. And so if you have need of intercession, you can say a prayer to Mother Segali, and if it works out, then you let them know, and that might help her cause for canonization. We're dealing with two Wests, and that's the issue, always. We are dealing with the historic, or real West, dealing with the fictionalized and mythical West. And that's what we're going to do in conceptualization. We're going to talk about both of them and how they impact on us, and particularly how they impact on our spiritual and religious values. This is Frederick Jackson Turner, one of my favorite historians. He wrote something called The Significance of the Frontier in American History, in which he argued that our national character and our individual characters, all the things we Americans are proud of, how independent we are, how strong-willed we are, how kind and generous we are, became about because of the frontier. On the frontier, the interaction caused this development of those things. However, very quickly, fiction writers created another West, as we'll talk about. Then once we got to film and television, they created another West. And eventually the line between fact and fiction is blurred, and as the man says in the last line, this is Richard Slotkin, who argues that the myth is now more important than the reality. In the last line of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the newspaper reporter says, when fact becomes legend, when legend becomes fact, we're into the legend. And that in and of itself has now become part of our culture. You can do that, you're allowed. It's a legend, everybody believes it. Look at this. I found this as I'm doing my research. I found this book review. Let me read this first line. Frontier myths tend to imitate their explosive backgrounds. Particularities are erased. Uncompromising visions of good and bad. And to paraphrase the line from The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, legends are printed as fact. When I read that, I thought, damn, I couldn't have read that any better. And I realized I could have written that better. In fact, I think I did write it. And that young lady back there giggling and stepping all over my punchline is the author. That is Dr. Elise Lonich Ryan. And she grew up in the household watching her grandparents watch all these cowboys and read all these cowboy books. And whether she knows it or not, I think it infiltrated her subconscious. That's not quite fair to Elise. Elise is absolutely brilliant. Pure raw intellect. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think she's probably the second most intelligent person in the family. At any rate, you're going to meet him before we're done. That's true. Elise is important here today because of Hard Ride 2. If you've read Hard Ride, you're familiar with it. The girl who has been abducted carries the story. While we don't see her, she does not come on stage until 3/4 of the way through the book. So she has to carry the story without being there. And when she comes on, and she's not like passively waiting to be rescued, But once she comes on, she takes charge immediately, starts giving orders, telling people what to do. I needed a very strong character model for that, and I have. So thanks, Elise. She's not used to me giving her compliments. She doesn't know what to say. This is Owen Wister, very important. Those of you who went to Donora Senior High School back in the 50s and 60s, reading the book The Virginian was part of the curriculum. And I remember reading this song in class. So many of the images of the West that we have in our writing, and all of us who write Westerns do, are there. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Get out of town by sundown. And there's a religious element. There's the local bishop, and he tries to talk the Virginian out of the gunfight. Turn the other cheek. Forgive Trampas. He doesn't mean it. The Virginian says, don't tell that to Trampas. Convert him. I didn't call myself out. One of the other things about him, though, he sets a writing style for us. I don't use too much vulgarity in my books. I'll say down in heaven. But I will use one word. This phrase. And I'm going to use this to exemplify. Trampas calls the Virginian an unprintable name. In the original versions, they say son of a B and then line. In the more recent, they spell it out. That was, and whenever he calls him that, the Virginian gives the famous line, you better smile when you say that to me. Because it could be used in a different context. And here's the context I'm going to use it. Carnation milk was used on ranches. Couldn't carry it on a trail because the camp was too heavy. So the rancher's wife, there's my groupies. I didn't see him until I just looked up. I threw it. I lost you in the dark. The rancher's wife, there was a contest. Send in your slogan for carnation milk. So she writes, carnation milk known throughout the land. It comes to you in a red and white can. She gives it to one of the colony and says, take this in and mail. So he does. Weeks go by, she gets a letter. Your submission was unacceptable. It's too crude for our audience. What the heck? So she calls the cowboy in. What did you do? He said, it's kind of dry. I punched it up. Da-da-da-da. She said, what do you say? Carnation milk, da-da-da. No udders to pull, no hay to pitch. You just poke a hole in that son of a... I use that word like that in my writing. And that's not the only one I will use because the kids, even though they are not unfamiliar with that language, we're using all Western, as best we can, refreshments. We're going to give away a lot of prizes after this is done with some of those refreshments. Arbuckle's coffee is a staple. It was developed by Pittsburgh Mercantile, who found a way to package that, preserve it, and it always came with a peppermint stick. And when the cook wanted his coffee ground, he would say, who wants the candy? Because whoever ground the coffee got the peppermint stick. Another quick thing we got to do, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but it's important. Does this media create the values, or does it reflect? To do that, and this was in my Give Us This Day too, another way of saying, do we know what we see, or do we see what we know? I got a good buddy back here who knows a lot about what we're talking about. Larry, he lives down the block. What was the better-known name of the mission of San Antonio de Valera? It was called the Alamo, and here it is, right here in San Antonio, Texas. How's that Alamo name come from? What's Alamo mean?
Spanish for barnwood tree and kind of poplar.
That's right, and there were no cottonwood trees anywhere near that. But the soldiers who were stationed there were from a place called Los Alamos. They were called, and so they called it the Alamo, and that's how they came about. The Alamo has been in the news recently. These three Texans have rewritten the story of the Alamo. It's not that heroic stuff where everybody was dying for freedom. In fact, they argued it was just the opposite. Mexico was going to end slavery. Texas wanted an independent state where they could keep slavery. They didn't die fighting to the end. They tried to surrender. They were butchered by the Mexicans. These guys have gotten death threats. They're native Texans, and they live in Texas. They've gotten death threats, and the governor of Texas has taken this so seriously that he's trying to initiate, and this will sound familiar, an 1836 project. You know what that's comparable to, that they don't want to teach. And what he means by that is going back to the romanticized version. Oh, did I come up? Thank you. I thought I saw it. I guess I've been so familiar with these slides. The Davy Crockett, Disney's Davy Crockett, on Sunday night. I want you to remember that. Can I get somebody who will volunteer to remember Sunday night for me? That handsome man back there. Can you remember Sunday night? Yes. All right. Sunday night television, Wide World of Disney. They did this series of Davy Crockett. All right. It was a big hit. He dies at the end, swinging his Mexican, and it created something called the coonskin craze. Maybe some of you are old enough to remember. Kids all over the country wanted to dress in coonskin cap, including that kid who's standing up there on Thompson Avenue. That is nobody you know. What are you doing there? You can tell the mill was still going back in those days because they still had enough money to buy me goofy toys like that. Kids all over the place, they wanted to dress like that. I'm not going to run through the hobby craze. However, you got to imagine this meeting of the Disney people. They killed off their hero. They had made $1 billion in today's money in merchandising. So you imagine that production meeting, and this Walt comes in and says, okay, what the hell did you guys do? How we gonna? So the production people say, oh, that's no big, we'll make a prequel. So they go back, make 2 more, and put it in together, and put it into movies, and make another $1 billion. $2 billion in today's things from the coonskin craze. This is ongoing. Somebody might know this. In the fall of 2012, marketers noticed, we're looking at things, a big increase in a particular sporting goods commodity, archery equipment. And that continued to the next year, all the way through to the next fall. So they broke this down. So what the heck's causing it? Well, it turned out it was pre-teens and early teen girls, like that one, who were interested in shooting bows and arrows. That is her 4th bow. Now she's at the high end. She's got herself a bare, taped out, recurve. She's got a beautiful bow. It's a beautiful girl. It is too bad she can't shoot it.
Yeah. I know I can't shoot.
In case you didn't get my sarcasm, I've been shooting since I was 8 years old. I can't shoot a flight of arrows that consistently. So why? Why did that particular girl, and little girls everywhere, have bows and arrows? Think it might have had something to do with this girl? Merida from Brave, that came out in June of 2012. A couple months before that, the Hunger Games came out. Little girls went nuts. They didn't want compound, they want those old style recurves. So little red-headed Scottish girl. Now there's no way anybody in this library could hear those words together in the same sentence. Red-headed Scot. We got a star. That star here, Charles State. We lost him in April. This is the first time I have done anything like this without him. It's got to be more horrific for Susan. But fortunately for us, he left us a legacy. 2 books that he's written. Story of Donora and People of Donora. Brian Charlton is over here from the Donora Historical Society. We'll talk a little bit about him later on. He's here because he says he has a vested interest. If you've read any of my books, Brian is one of the central figures in my story. And I'm finishing up the trilogy on Steel Town, which is Donora. So he wants to find out what happens to it. So let me give you this hint. In this book, everybody plays themselves, including me. And the very first line in this book is, "Call me Brian." I think that gives you a hint that you might make it through, but we're not done yet. I love to talk about Brian. I get criticism every time I talk to him and get into my book. Everything I can do, any of this stuff, talk, give talks, research, write, Brian can do equally well. Soccer thinks he can do far better than me because he's got a much nicer personality. This is your son. Me over here this week, someone said, why would I hear take Lonich talk? He doesn't have a personality. Well, I thought to myself, well, that's true. I thought it was my dynamic good looks that were going to bring people in. We're going to transition to another redhead. After we're done, go if you have Dr. Stacy's stories, share them with Susan, share them with all of us, and you can get one of those books. This process of this value change is ongoing. It's going to come right back around if you can stay with me, because I know some of my explanations are a little bit. I'm listening, and I hear this song. Willie and Waylon, don't let your babies grow up to be cops. Don't let them pick guitars. That makes sense. And drive an old truck, something. How'd that happen? How the hell does pickup trucks get associated with companies? So I do what I do, and that's what I research. I start researching, and I'm looking through, and I'm looking for scholarship on this, and I find this quote: "If pickups are a religion in Texas, Red McCombs is the prophet who took the gospel from the sticks to the city." This is another red-headed Scot that we're transitioning to. You might have heard of Red McCombs. He's a builder. He owned the San Antonio Spurs, the Denver Nuggets. He's a reformed alcoholic, but he's now a great philanthropist. Back in the late 50s, he owned the biggest automotive dealership in Texas. Who said that?
Me.
Oh, geez, all right. I was talking about my car guys here, and I know I got some car guys.
Married to one.
I was just going to say, her husband, that's John Conti, and Nick Kapanick is back here. Nick, I trust Nick totally with my cars. Him and his buddies up there, hoods up. I put precious cargo in our cars, and Nick always makes sure it's safe. They're going to help me out. They agreed to do this, but I'm kind of blindsiding them, so blame it on me, all right? John, Nick, what do we got here?
Ford F-100.
Is that right, Nick? No, these are Ford F-100. Now the tougher questions are coming. What year?
Oh,
What? What? What'd you say, little boy? What? I didn't hear it. 66, you said. 1966, 67. That's absolutely right. You got another car guy. Make sure you hook up with him after it's done.
You got
Another one up
ringers.
here. Okay. Now, what else is unique though about these 66, 67 Ford Ranger? Car guy, little boy, do you know? That's it. Get up here. Can I have him? Come on up here. Did you hear that? That was called the Ranger package. McCombs decided that if he could upgrade his truck, more chrome. What else besides the chrome?
Two-tone colors.
Two-tone colors. What else? Here, you check over. Go ahead.
The bumpers and the mirrors.
All of this package was designed for urban cowboys. He said fleet side. Who made the fleet side? Well, I'm a little out of whack. Everybody knows this is set up. This is my main man, Tanner. He's holding up his wait, hold it, just wait. He's holding up his straight A report card, all A's, every grade, every 9 week accomplishment he shares with his big sister. He's well-rounded, and I want to make you sure that he shares with Mr. Conti an interest in soccer. In fact, he's going there afterwards. He likes to fish with his next-door neighbor, Greg. Like Mark, he likes Johnny Cash and can do a pretty good ring of fire on his trumpet. Like Nick, if I let him, he'd parkour up one wall, shimmy across the... You gotta wonder about his good sense, though, relying on that feeble old man to catch him. The biggest danger he was in, though, and that I was in, is if Graham would have walked in and saw me letting him climb for walls like that. He is absolutely a wicked rifle shot, and he is turning out to be a pretty good pistol shot. But the reason he's up here, of course, is because he loves cars. As I was doing this PowerPoint, he walks in, David, that's the C10. That's Fleetside C10. Chevy. So I said, we'll put you in the show. Who is the big competitor to Ford?
Chevy.
You got it. You ready, Grant? Now, Chevy just hang on a second. Chevy counteracts with, as John and Nick have already said, and Tanner already said, the Chevy C10 fleet size. Hey guys, did these things evolve into the S10s and the?
It's a smaller platform.
But it's a basic where it comes from?
The Japanese brought over the small pickup.
Okay. We didn't talk about the Japanese. Look at them together. The tops are the Ford, the bottom are the Chevy. Let's go back to that handsome man in the back. What night did I tell you was important? What night did I tell you was important in America? Sunday. If you have models that look so much alike, what do you got to do? You got to market and advertise. Chevy had an ace in the hole. And you can yell this as soon as the gram starts it and you know it. Chevy owned the advertising rights to the biggest show, biggest night of the week. Go ahead, Graham. What is it? Bonanza. And so, Ford counterpunches. They start advertising on all their cowboys, and that's how this nexus of the cowboys and the pickup trucks comes into the national site. And this is ongoing because this was incredible that I found out as I'm doing my research. INSP is a conservative religious television channel. They recently changed their format, and they are using those exact, I mean the exact same shows from the 50s and the 60s to exemplify what they consider the most important moral and therefore religious values. So it ties all the way back around to the religion in the West.
Hey,
Wait, what?
are you gonna raffle a truck?
No. Yeah, tonight raffle a truck. No, we're not going to raffle a truck.
Maybe let's raffle a truck.
No, whoa. Yeah. This is the danger when you got these people. No, we can't raffle a truck.
Why not?
Where are we going to get a truck?
You brought it up.
I didn't bring it up. She brought it. Where?
You have a truck?
You got a truck.
Where?
You have a truck?
Right back there.
Right back there. What? Oh, that poor truck was put to sleep. My S10. Oh, look at this. Did you guys set this all up on me? Were you part of this, both sides? He does have, look, he's got, what is this? Is this a Chevy or a Ford? I can't read it. Oh, he's got a Chevy Hot Wheels truck. Wait a minute, then there's a Haas's gift certificate. Because Haas Cartwright, I guess, was advertised. We will put this with Graham. We'll put this with the raffles and we won't raffle it off. Can I have a hand now for my main man? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the program. It wasn't just the ISPN is not just using the television shows. They use the movies too. And the anchor point of that, one of them is John Wayne. John Wayne has been dead over 40 years. And he's still an incredible presence. And one of the things here, restoring American values. It's interesting. Wayne, apparently, and I've done my research on Wayne, and I'm going to let you do your own. I have my opinions very clearly about him, and I want you to form your own. None of the research, and I did a lot of new research, changed my mind one bit. But the idea here is he didn't care too much for religion at all in his own life. The story persists by his nephew, who is a Catholic priest, that Wayne converted to Catholicism on his deathbed. But, like I said, in his lifetime he did. Ironically now, this is brand new scholarship too. This lady is a professor of Christianity, and her argument is that a sect within the evangelical Protestant community has now organized around John Wayne's nationalistic personal values is part of their religion. Now, obviously, she doesn't think it's a good idea, but a lot of people would disagree. Now, what do you think about it? You cannot deny John Wayne's powerful presence in impact on film in the West. I've been telling you a lot about what to think. Let me let you watch this. This is from a movie called The Searchers. I stole the plot from my book, Hard Ride, from this movie. John Wayne's niece has been kidnapped, and he's trying to get her back. He spends years, and he gets to hate everybody. Even the girl he's looking for, he wants to kill her when he finds her. She's been around the Indians. So let's watch it. John Ford directed it. That's Monument Valley.
Captain! Captain Clayton!
Another one, huh? Give me a hand, Charlie.
This has come a long way before he died, Captain.
Well, Ethan, there's another one you can score up for your brother.
I don't like it.
What don't you like?
Indians on the raid generally hide their dead. And if they don't care anything about us knowing, it only spells one thing. They ain't afeard of us following or of us catching up with them either.
You can back out any time you want, Nesby.
Ethan, I didn't say that. Didn't say such.
Easy, Nesby, easy.
Jorgensen! Why don't you finish the job?
What good did that do you?
Why, what you preach, none. But what that Comanche believes, ain't got no eyes, he can't enter the spirit land, has to wander forever between the winds. You get it, Reverend. Come on, blanket head.
He's so caught up with hate that he uses a religion, even against his enemies. And this is one of going to be the next one. You can't help when you're rubbed up against somebody else's beliefs, to somehow or other have an impact on you. I stole that seat too. I don't see Ian. I can't see him. Oh, he's back there. Back there, that's Dr. Ian Lonich, who's back there. And he's the model for the healer in Hard Ride Redemption. This guy's he starts out as such a gentle kind of grandpa doesn't even want to send him on a mission. He says, "You're too kind." Before it's done, he's shooting dead men in the back to make sure that they're dead. He's not taking any chances. And once again, the moral balance in that is the female. She's the one that pulls everybody back on the moral compass. Yeah, people have asked me who read the book, well, who's being redeemed in this book? Is it the bad guy that's trying to save his soul by getting back to things? Is it this mysterious stranger that showed up? Is it the guy with the tattoos? Oh, I know damn well who's being redeemed. It's the writer. Now, we are going on to use another religion to make a point. Anytime you interact, there's going to be conflict. That doesn't mean necessarily start punching or throwing, but just somehow conflict, mental conflict, you think about things or whatever. And out of that comes transformation. It has to, some way or other. That's Hegelian philosophy, and that's the way it works. And so we're going to look at Judaism and Jews on the frontier. The author argues that the Jews were really predisposed to be able to handle this environment better because of most of their history. They've been cast out and run off and walled off and treated like garbage. So they were able to hold on to their religious values wherever they were. In fact, I was amazed at the number of synagogues in the West before.
Nice does not make rain. Yes or no? Can your God make rain?
Yes.
But he doesn't.
That's right.
Why?
Because that's not his department.
But if he wanted to, he could?
Yes.
What kind of a God do you have?
Don't say my God. Is your God too?
Don't give them to us. We have enough troubles with our own God.
But there's only one God.
What does he do?
He can do anything.
Then why can't he make rain?
Because he doesn't make rain. He gives us strength when we're suffering. He gives us compassion when all that we feel is hatred. He gives us courage when we're searching around blindly like little mice in the darkness. But he does not make rain. Of course, sometimes just like that, he'll change his mind.
When you're confronted like that, see, and that's what it meant by conflict. You got to think about it. Read his mind. How many times have we said that about whatever God we believe? Next one, of course, is the big three, and the symbols that he's got tattooed is the Star Crescent of Islam, and this is hard to find. It's because of the nature, everybody hated the Muslims, but everybody misunderstood, and so, you know, and secondly, they didn't believe in iconography, they didn't believe in images, they didn't, and so the first synagogue that the first mosque that I could find in the United States, Western, is in 1893. So that's how far we go. So I had a stretch on this. But scholarship now is showing that there were Muslims, some Muhammadan Africans who came over as slaves, some descendants of Spanish Moors who became vaqueros and cowboys, but I had a hard time finding, and this is a stretch, so don't boo me. There is something called cowboy action shooting, and what these guys do, ladies and gentlemen, they dress up like cowboys and they compete. There's a scene out of a movie, or a real gunfight the OK Corral, and they'll shoot, and the top score gets it. So, one of, and I mean this literally, biggest fan of cowboy action shooting is Trinidad Slim, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So there's your Muslim. It's the best I could come up with. You know, Muhammad didn't believe in images, so you have to move up and have anything like that. This is my favorite Muslim. And there, Mr. Amakuchi, is the man. That's my dad. He's raising hell in the Union meeting. And he is the real deal, just like the guy invaded Normandy, grew up in Depression, invaded Normandy, fought all the way across Europe, liberated the concentration camps, came back home, just like the guy in the book, nearly killed in the mill with a chain on a crane broke loose and broke his face, ended his athletic career. He was an outstanding boxer, got an scholarship offer at Waynesburg University, all of that died. And he becomes my friend Frank, right after my dad died, I was so distraught because I was publishing something. Frank says to me, get a hold of yourself. He says, write a book, write a cowboy book, make your dad the hero. And so I sort of did that in this book. And he obviously is the example of the patron. But there's something, a myth here. I started the other day, my youngest brother Jimmy goes, oh my God, Daddy's on the front page of the Pittsburgh Press. My mother sends us out to buy up all the newspapers so she could go to church the next morning and not be disgraced. That's the kind of thing they want to put up there. They were closing the Duquesne Mill. And that's what they were arguing. I said to him, what's wrong with you? Let them close the mill. The contract said they close the mill, you get an extra $200 a month on your pension. He said, he gets rid of it. Dave, those young guys I work with, they haven't educated their kids yet. I commit blasphemy and corrupt scripture in the second paragraph in my book, in part one. The young grandson, played by Ian, walks up to and he brushes away the inscription on the gravestone. Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, because I am the tough son of Mitchell. And that described that man. However, there was that soft side. All the grandkids. Kristen always said, Grandpa Billy was so tough on the outside, but so soft inside. So, we'll move on. I can see by my tattoo that we have Oriental religions. Scholarship now is telling us stuff we didn't know. Archaeological finds in the railroad worker camps are showing Buddhist shrines, Buddhist temples, Buddhist artifacts. When they came to do that work, they naturally brought their religion with them. In the mid-1960s, ABC television took advantage of an increasing interest in Oriental spiritualism. Beatles and everybody else, they were getting gurus. And an increased interest in martial arts came up with an absolutely new gimmick for a Western. I'm one slide ahead of myself. Kung Fu. You have all learned well, grasshoppers. That's very good. That's fine about virtual Oriental. That lady's argument is that we Americans, that's how we know about Oriental religion, through the media. So let's watch Kung Fu. This is a bounty hunter. He's going to hunt Cain down. And I'm going to have to speed this up because
You are king. And you?
Keep us. Stop.
Yeah.
It's the obligatory.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Famous line. I never forgot this. Years.
People will remember what was done here. They will think of it with respect.
The taking of a life does no one honor.
Taking of a life does no one honor. Didn't keep it from killing him, but
That you have You are king. And
what do we do? One interesting thing while she's fixing that to get me to the next slide, thanks, Peyton, is that my research told me that that was a lot of things. The Shaolin did not brand themselves. So then I'm reading this stuff and I'm reading about these Shaolin priests that are branded. Well, listen to this. It seems that some of the Shaolin American temples, the monks they didn't brand themselves, they tattooed themselves because they thought that people would come to the temple, particularly those that wanted martial arts training, expected them to be tattooed. So I guess, when the legend becomes fact, tattoo the legend. Some religions didn't want to be bothered, but they couldn't help it. In the 1830s, Joseph Smith walked into a cave in New York, found a book, was waiting on this book of Mormon, and on the basis of that, formed a church called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When he died in the early 1840s, Brigham Young took over the church. The Mormons were persecuted, and primarily the main reason they were persecuted was over the polygamy issue, which was an important tenet of their religion. They believed that there was a need for that. So, after getting tired of all this stuff back east, Brigham Young says, let's leave town. And so, they pack up on their hand carts, and they head west on the Mormon Trail. Supposedly in 1847, Brigham Young says, this is the place, and they start. Now, that's right in Utah, of course. And they intended to create a theocracy there, and they did, but the federal government wasn't going to have that in the middle of what was going to be new states. So the federal government actually mounted a military expedition. The Mormons weren't about to be pushed around, so they formed their own militia. Now, they officially called themselves the Danites. Porter Rockwell, you're going to see in a few minutes, was one of the actual historic figures. But later on, they morphed into something that some people derogatorily call the Avenging Angels. And and I like James Coburn as an actor. These are some clips. But one size doesn't fit all here.
Put the gun down, Alpheus.
Put it down now. The grave's already dug. Let's just drop him in and be done with the whole mess.
You fire, and you'll be in there right after him. Would you like a little whiskey, brighten your coffee up? No. Well, then.
I'm gonna have to get inside.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to draw off the guards.
You needn't get myself shot at.
Well, come on, Porter. You know, the son of thunder and all that. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak like any other man.
You know, Joe Smith told me that a long time ago. He says, don't cut your hair and you'll be invincible. Like Samson, you know. Well, he ain't been wrong. Yet.
Dead. What are you doing here, Porter?
I'm afraid you boys are a little confused about what's going on here. So, just holster them guns and I'll explain it to you.
My point of this is one size doesn't fit all. Most of the Mormon friends I know, they don't drink either coffee or whiskey. But he believes, but not enough to not put his body armor on. And I think that's an important lesson we all have to remember, is that one size doesn't fit all. Everybody doesn't practice their beliefs the same way, even with congregations, groups of people. And that's the concept I wanted to show there with that particular thing. There's a couple of other things here. The Mormons were the only major religious group that were excluded from the 1893 Columbian Exposition, and they were excluded basically because of the polygamy issue. The author of this book says, while they were not accepted in the East, this will sound very familiar if you paid any attention to what I said at the beginning, on the frontier, the Mormons were gaining acceptance, and that's, once again, the Turner thesis. And there's one other thing I just could not, and I'm getting ready to run, one thing I just couldn't pass up. In The Avenging Angels, Charlton Heston plays Brigham Young. And I thought, that was one heck of a trip, all the way from burning the Red Sea to settling into Grace. You talk about religious transformation. We're going to talk about Christianity. We're going to talk about Protestant Christianity. I could talk on any one of these things. I could have done the talk all day. Now, mainstream Protestant Christianity is certainly evident. We have congregational, everyone, Methodist, Presbyterian, everything. In fact, like I told you, the Episcopalian bishop in Virginia is the one we're trying to talk about. But what I'm going to talk about is more adaptive, spontaneous, emotional. It was much easier to adapt Protestant theology than it was Catholic theology because it wasn't as rigid, because you had so many denominations. And so you could have itinerant preachers going around, or you could have these, and I wanted to put this in for Arthur because he was talking about tent revival. If you could give the people a good show. You wanted a good show. You didn't come here just, maybe you did come here. You wanted a good show. You wanted to have fun. If you could give the people a good show, you could put in some scripture, because people are hungry for that spiritual side, they'll pay attention. Now, I come up with a couple. This is a scene from Hang 'em High, the Clint Eastwood movie.
Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river.
don't know if you noticed the preacher at the beginning, because what I was going to say is hanging down, murder one. James MacArthur played the preacher. I think it's better, though, when we talk about the African-American community. African-Americans, especially in slavery, religion was used to exploit. Obey your master. Everything will be better in heaven. Be docile. Be passive. Well, they weren't. And they developed their own religious practices. And yet, whenever they moved west, they developed those own congregational practices. But this is where we really see this spontaneous. Here's the ammunition. If you were good enough, if you were charismatic enough, if you could preach the message, you could even win over your enemy. This is an incredible movie. You gotta be careful. You put those two powerhouses together, Sidney Poitier and Henry Belafonte, for those of you who know, Buck and the Preacher. Buck is an ex-Union soldier who leads people out west. Cameron Mitchell plays an ex-Confederate who hates Buck and has put a reward out on his head. And the preacher is a con man. Henry Belafonte is a con man. I want you to watch this. I want you to pay particular attention of the good use he makes with his Bible. I'm going to need your help again, I think, Peyton. I don't have a. I don't know what we did. I lost the video. Yeah, that's a shame to lose that one. It's my favorite walk. Come back here and help me, Peyton. How we get out of this? Okay, wait. Well, I tell you what. We'll go to the next set of slides. Go where you're supposed to be. Go where you're supposed to be. We're going to go to this next set of slides. We'll work through it, and I'll come back. But because it's just too good to pass up. Okay. I don't know where I am. Let me check my board. Okay. All right, go ahead, Graham. Come on. I see you dancing. I see you on the way. I see you. Oh, wait a minute. Thank you, ladies. That's incredible. My first two books I wrote with Moon books, both Cross Moon Rising, first two pictures. Thunder Moon Metro. One for Peyton, one for her brother. Sibling God. Oh my God. Anyhow, so there was this little 8-year-old girl that would sit on my lap, and that's why we're going to talk about this. But I want to mention some of my other authors, my fellow authors, while we're talking here. And I want to mention Jesse Francis. Jesse's over there. He's, I think, where's Jesse? How'd you get over there? That's what Jesse does. Jesse's a very versatile guy. If you want to buy a house, Jesse will trace the deed for you. He'll write up your bill of sale. He will remodel that house from the ceiling to the basement. After he's done, he'll draw you a picture, and then he'll write a poem to commemorate it all. He is a Renaissance man. He illustrates all my work. This is the cover we're working on for Steel Town Sundown. Those are the clues. The most important one there is that 1908 dentist. Those of you who read the two before know that it ends in 1908, and it ends kind of mysterious. The skull. And it won't take money too long to know who that skull is. They're tearing down the church. They find the skull rolling out from underneath the excavation. There's no clues. They don't know what to do. Cold case detective comes in from the state police. Somebody comes in from the diocese. But instead of going, they go to the curator of the local historical society. And he guides them through the clues. So you know you're going to be alive at the end of the book. So you can be done with me now. Put it up. Kathy Shoop, probably I think all of us would be the most professional, the best writer here of all of us. Kathy is donating all of her proceeds today to the library. An incredible lady. I got her next over there to Peyton, and you'll see why in a second, because I want all of that good stuff to run off. Kathy, her stories are great, but what I love about Kathy is also a character. She's not too far from religion, and still, my favorite character, still, of all the time, is that lady that has to go to confession every day. Why? Now, what that? I don't know why they come to that appeal to someone like me. We used to go to confession when we could go to confession. That's grand. Where we were, I gotta find a church to go to confession. We're baptizing Ian's baby. They said, where baby goes? She said, we're to confession. Right? So, get a chance to patronize our authors. I guess Dale didn't show up, or is he here? Let's see. And Jesse's got some artwork over there. We're going to auction off one of Jesse's sketches, drawings, whatever they're called. But we got a rare opportunity here today. It's important to me. I appreciate you putting up with all of this. And all the authors were on board with this. Very rare that you get a chance to see something come straight off the press. She sat on my lap. Davey's writing moon books. I want to write a book about the moon. She starts this story. I'm writing like crazy to get this out. And she took over. Get out of here. She's going to type it, start illustrating it. Her publisher and her printer, Tim Erda of Badzik Printing. If anybody needs any work done, you don't need to go anywhere else except right down the street. He moved heaven and earth so that we could get this done for today. Now what we have are advanced copies. I know we have some, but Peyton will also take orders if you're interested in everything. So thank you for being able to share that moment and that moment with her. All right, we have one last segment to go through. This is, and I hope this will work. Oh, it should. This is a segment of a movie called Son of the Morning Star. I really got to reel myself on this because this is the only thing that I've done primary research on. Everything else is in secondary. If you want to see my Custer stuff, just Google my name and Little Big Boy, and you can find all that junk out there. But anyway, this is one of the most accurate, and then there's hardly anything that's very accurate at all. But we're going to watch a small clip here.
General Custer.
That is based on a true story by Ogalalasu, Makodasu, it gets a little bit tricky there, named Black Elk. He wrote this book in the 1930s. The guy who interviewed him and wrote the book. And he was a very young boy. Some accounts say he was 11, some 14. But he says, in his own words, that they told him to scalp this soldier, and the soldier was not dead. And it impacted him. And some of the Morning Star does a good job of trying to show something Native American. This book was Black Elk Speaks, and that's what they think Black Elk might have looked like as a young man. We know that's what he looked like as an older man, and that's what you would expect, right? The image, you probably didn't expect this image. This is Nicholas Black Elk. In 1904, Black Elk converted to Catholicism. He was baptized on December 6th, 1904, Feast of St. Nicholas, and so he took the name Nicholas Black Elk. And there he is. He became a catechist. He taught at the school. Never gave up totally his Native American ways, and never gave up totally his Native American spirituality. But there is a cause now by the Rapid City Diocese to canonize Nicholas Black Elk. And I'm going to read this prayer because for two reasons. One, I can use prayer. Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, behold us who stand before you, singing our song of thanksgiving for servant of God, Nicholas Black Elk. Faithfully he walked the sacred red road and generously witnessed the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ among the native people. We humbly ask you to hear the prayers we plead through his intercession. We ask Holy Mother Church to recognize his sanctity by acknowledging his presence in the company of saints and as one to imitate in his zeal for the gospel. This is the punchline. Catholics, open our hearts to recognize the risen Christ in other people and other cultures to your glory and honor. You wouldn't have found the Catholic Church recognizing that when we were going on. That was like heresy. I think it's absolutely great. And as I said, if you have need of intercession, you want to pray to Nicholas Black Elk. And I think we're going to quit here. I want to thank some people. I want to thank my fellow authors over here. Do you want to get some applause? All of my colleagues on the board who helped out. All the library staff. All my special props in the audience who played along and did all the stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I hope you had some fun in doing your yourself. I'm going to tell you one person here who had just about no fun and didn't enjoy herself at all. And that's Arlene, because she's a nervous wreck, because she is so upset that if she doesn't do something that detracts from what I say or do, then somehow or other that will impact on her. Let's give Graham a big round of applause. And let's give my opening act one big round of applause. I want to end it here. Class. Besides thanking all of you, a lot of things had to go right. Stuff had to work, all the technology had to work, the weather had to cooperate, you had to come in. So, I want to thank the Holy Spirit, and the Great Spirit, and Allah, and the Buddha, and all the prophets, and all the angels and saints who heard my prayers. Can I get an amen? Amen. God bless you all. Thank you so much. We are going to raffle off some mics.